Start recording.
Yeah, for next time, we should try to bring this one.
Yeah, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you put it.
I can see here.
Yeah. The only thing is a microphone.
Can't you bring the microphone over? No.
I think the hub, I'll have to check, because it would be nice, you know.
Or even a short one person.
What's that?
Or even a short one person.
I know, which is nice, you know. And I saw Costco has chairs like these, because they need regular chairs. They look like you're the low rent. Hey, Mike, was that meeting that you wanted to look at the minutes in March of 2024? Remember you talked about looking at a set of minutes?
Yeah. When we had like the 6 months worth of packets, is that when you're talking about from back then?
Yeah.
I could look.
There's no rush, because I thought it was the one that, for Jeff's meeting. Oh, shoot. I was just going to go on YouTube quick, see if we're broadcasting. What's wrong, Sean? Oh, we're live. We're broadcasting.
We ready?
I'm ready. I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be.
I'd like to call the Village Board and Plan Commission meeting to order.
Hit your gavel. Call them really rapid.
Also want to announce the Village Board intends to comply with all applicable federal, state, and county executive orders, proclamations, and guidelines. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call and open meeting law compliance check.
President Jeff Millies.
Here.
Trustee Jay Pecca.
Here.
Trustee Gary Finch.
Here.
Trustee Dylan Newman.
Here.
Mr. President, note for the record you do have a quorum of your village board for the Plan Commission. President Jeff Millies.
Here.
Commissioner Dan Nowick.
Here.
Commissioner Mario Rinaldi.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Alex.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum of your Plan Commission. Also note for the record that our zoning and planning administrator, Sean Malarkey, is seated next to me. Mr. President, you're in full compliance with the open meetings law.
Sounds good. I'd like to reconvene our public hearing. Notice was given that a public hearing will be held by the Vernon Village Board and Plan Commission on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Village Hall located at W249S8910 Center Drive to consider the request for applicant Jose Alpizar for the property owned by Alpizar property located at W224S6800 Guthrie Drive, Big Bend, 53103, identified by property tax key number VNT 2017981 for issuance of a conditional use permit to allow contractor's yard for section 300-22 subsection B sub 4 of the Village of Vernon Code of Ordinances. On December 11, 2024, the public hearing was adjourned to January 8, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Village of Vernon Hall by motions made by the Village of Vernon Board and Plan Commission. All parties will be heard. Sean, you want to give an update?
Yeah, just very quickly, we did talk about this at length last month. Some of the, do you want to put this on the overhead for us? Is it here? Yeah, this is essentially the site plan that was submitted by the petitioner originally with the application. This is what we discussed last time. I summarized in my updated staff report some of the main topics of concern or discussion. First being noise, early morning backup alarms, a number of proposed trucks, the grading and the filling that's previously completed on the property, which needed to be determined if it was legally done, potentially moving the employees and the truck parking, so the employee parking on the south here, potentially moving that to the back side of the property to keep that away from the setbacks and to ensure there's at least a 100-foot setback from the residential property line to the south was another consideration. Possible additional landscaping or berming on the south property line to protect a buffer between the residents to the south and the proposed use. And then also looking at other contractor yard conditional use permits that were issued in the proximity for comparison to the proposed operation. After the meeting, I did speak with the petitioner about potentially revising the plan and the number of trucks on the property. And at the time, this was right after the meeting essentially, and the petitioner was going to consider making some changes. I did follow with him about a week ago as to whether or not any potential changes had been made, and at the time they had not been. I did notice when I got here and booted up my laptop about maybe a half an hour to an hour ago, there was a resubmitted site plan. So I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but something has come through. We did also, I talked to the building inspector who met the petitioner out on the site and took a look at some of the grading and filling and clearing that had been done. He essentially estimated that based on what was done in the property, it looked like there was about 200 to 250 cubic yards of fill that were brought in and some of the clearing, most of which was done to fill a depression at the back of the barn. He'd said in his estimation that wouldn't have triggered the village permits for filling or grading or approval from the plan commission, and then also based on the area and fill, it also would not trigger county stormwater and erosion control permits. So in the building inspector's estimation, what was done out there was legal in terms of the grading and filling. So that isn't a concern in my mind at this point. So that's the updates. I guess I can pop open quickly the updated site plan as well that just came through. What it looks like essentially was done is that the employee parking that is on the south side of the entrance drive is moved to the back, along with the dump trucks. It looks like the number of dump trucks have not been decreased from 10 that was as part of the application. So there's parking for 10 employees and 10 dump trucks. That does leave at least 100 plus feet of buffer from the south property line, which does meet the requirement of the ordinance. And then there would have to be some combination of the property to the east to satisfy the setback from this as well. The petitioner is also showing an area that's hatched in here for additional landscaping that would be done by others. There isn't anything in terms of specifics there, but they are showing a general area for that. So that looks like the update that has been submitted. So that's all I have unless there's additional questions. I'd ask, was the Plan Commission board given copies of conditional use permits that were...
I did put the opposing conditional use permit, and then Mr. Ken Walters Sr. had a CU down the road a little bit, but then I didn't put in like Miller or Doug Minen. Those are brand new CUs that are further down on National Avenue.
Much larger operations.
Right next door to my house.
Right.
But those are the only two I put in there. And I just wanted to state for the record, because we had to rezone the other Walter property for the septic tank business that he had, and he was upset. Well, not upset, but he questioned why he had to rezone, and I just wanted to state for the record he had to rezone because his business needed to be in a B3 zoning. He couldn't do a CU on.
So he doesn't have a conditional use.
Right.
He just has a site plan approval because he's in his zone commercially.
Right, as all those businesses are in that area where his son now has the balloon place and all the other businesses. And Sean, I did put the information from the attorney on conditional uses. I know some of our seasoned commissioners have seen that in the past, but just a reminder on
Yeah,
Act 67.
Yeah, I'll just take a quick, I mentioned this last time as well, and for those who weren't present last time. Back in 2017, there's new legislation passed for conditional uses. Essentially makes conditional uses permitted uses if it's listed within a zoning district, which this is for the A5 zoning district. What has to happen as part of conditional use review essentially is that you have to weigh substantial evidence. Decisions can't be made for whatever reason, based on a feeling. It's got to be based on evidence. And essentially, if the petitioner can satisfy the conditions that are listed in the ordinance, or other reasonable conditions that you would put on it based on substantial evidence, then it has to be approved. Essentially, conditional uses are permitted uses provided reasonable conditions can be met. And those conditions can be all sorts of things. And so our ordinance does have a series of conditions that are already in there. One, it's got to be an arterial road, which it is. It's got to be 5 acres in size, which it is. It's got to have adequate landscaping, so that's something that you have to determine whether or not that exists or whether additional landscaping has to be put in. It also has to have proper setbacks, which again we've made changes in that regard. Essentially, it's got to be 100 feet from any residential property line or 50 feet from any commercial property line, unless that is lessened by the Plan Commission based on the surroundings, which is possible. The updated plan that I just showed does meet that 100-foot setback from that property line. And there's also some other conditions in here about submitting a site plan, et cetera, that have been done. And so you have to base it on those types of things. You can take a look at the number of trucks, the hours of operation, because if you're looking at noise and compatibility, it's got to be, you have to be looking at specific things, not just compatibility in general. You have to be looking at specific instances of how the conditional use will be used. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. You can't deny it just because you don't think it's going to be compatible for whatever reason. It's got to be based on specific factors.
And Mr. President, I just wanted to note for the record that Linda Polzine did send some information. It was an email with some pictures. I did put that in the Plan Commission packet as additional information. And Carrie Nackreiner had sent an email December 11th, and I didn't check that email. It was at 4:15, so I did put that in the Plan Commission packet. And then we just received information from Mr. Alpizar on the county freeway information that he submitted, so I'm entering that into the record as information for the public hearing. And the Plan Commission has all that, Sean and Jeff. And the updated planner comments.
Public comments?
That's what I...
Are there any other public comments? Please come forward to the microphone and state your name and address.
Linda Polzing, W225 South 6835 Guthrie Drive. My question is, how many businesses does he have operating, would he have operating out of that location? And every business down by us, everything has to be housed. There's no outside parking. So why does he get to do it? Park outside without an additional building? If he can't fit it in a building, it shouldn't be on the property. And then the other thing we were kind of thinking about is putting a driveway out to National. Because 10 dump trucks is a lot to go down that one little narrow driveway.
And Lynn, I just wanted to state for the record, the mistake I made at the last public hearing is typically when someone makes their statements, we jot them down, take all the comments and answer them all at one time. Because if you see the 15 pages of minutes that I did last meeting, so that, if you don't see them respond right away, the commission and
I
board
can't
will.
find your minutes anywhere.
It's in the packet.
Oh, I don't have a pen.
It's in the public packet. Trust me, I put it up there,
Out where?
on the website. Under,
I've been looking for minutes.
yeah, oh yeah, I mean, I just started doing the minutes, but in this public packet, I think it's 15 not of just the public hearing, but there's a lot. 5 pages of public hearing.
Okay. Yeah, but, you know, the thing is, everybody else has to have their, Walters has to have everything housed. The new businesses, everything is housed. Granted, the power, what is it?
Proven power?
He sells, but he has an additional outbuilding that he has a lot of stuff stored in it. And the other thing is, the board and the plan commission okay it, but the sheriff's department has to patrol it. I don't understand where that all comes into play. If they're not following the guidelines, you call the sheriff's department. That's a waste of, and I stated that's a waste of resources.
Do you want to respond to questions now, or do you want to wait till we have all the public comments, or a chunk of public comments?
Why don't we wait till we have the chunk of public comments and we'll go through them all.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other additional public comments?
But get up and get there. Urban Peczkowski, West 225, South 6755, Guthrie Drive. I live right across the street. I share a driveway with Mr. Kopp. I don't know where your idea about dirt came in, but I watch dump trucks 2 or 3 a day go in and out of there for about 4 months, 5 months. And I couldn't figure out what Skip was doing. But I didn't know Skip sold the place. So there is a lot of fill back there. And I don't know what the regulations are, but I know anywhere else that if you put fill in, you're put silt fencing in, you're doing everything else. So I don't understand how this can be a non-event to the backfill. The other issue is every place I've known that has put something in on National Avenue, this is not national, but it is a highway, has to put in a bypass lane. And I don't know why there's not going to be a requirement for them to put a bypass lane in there. Because I live right across the street, and there's going to be cars going around, dump trucks and everything else. The other question I had was commercial property. Is this going to be a commercial property? Because my understanding is that just about everything else in this area is now going to be a commercial property. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Let's just show the land use map again. Sir?
Just wanted to make sure, let everybody get their fair shake. Gerald Warner, W239S8030 Sunset View Drive. Jose, Mr. Alpazar technically in a way works for me. He subcontracts to me, my business, Waukesha. From what I'm getting of all this, those trucks, those dump trucks will not be coming in and out at all hours of the day. They'll leave on the job, wherever the job may be, by 7 a.m. So a 6 a.m. start, a 7 a.m. start on a job somewhere. So if those trucks were, let's just say, running at 6 a.m., he would need to be from 6, and they don't come in because we do sewer work, a lot of sewer water. So they're usually done by 4, 5 o'clock at the latest. I've heard multiple complaints about dump trucks with vibrators in the middle of the night. I don't know if everybody remembers, but all fall long, they were grinding, paving, milling on 43, which would account for all of the vibrators at 2 a.m.,
slamming of tailgates because they're trying to get the asphalt out of their box, the hot rock. There's a lot of things that I've read that kind of don't jive for me, but I know he works for me. I know what time of his trucks are there. If his trucks leave in the morning, they don't come back till late afternoon. So when people sit here and kind of go, there's going to be 10 dump trucks in and out all day, that's a little far-fetched, because once they're gone for the day. And as far as backup of alarms that someone mentioned, they can put a lower cough, like the disposal places they have a silent one. And as far as I know, Miller Pipeline that's building there, that's Vernon, correct?
Mhm.
They're not gonna be able to have everything inside. They're asking for a conditional permit, aren't they?
75.
I'm sorry?
75 pieces of equipment outside.
Yes, so they're gonna be,
Next door to my
so they're
house.
not gonna be, so I know, I actually subcontract for Miller Pipeline, so I know that their equipment is not, and if I remember right, didn't Expose also just ask for an outside storage permit?
Who?
The building next to it, the vac trucks, I'm not Exposed, I'm sorry,
Minen, the cement contractor?
no, the other one that has the vac trucks, the black trucks with the big vacuums on them.
Well, the Hydro-X.
Hydro-X, I'm so sorry.
Miller bought out Hydro-X.
Correct, yeah, the clones.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there.
Sorry, Jeff.
So I know that they also did apply for a conditional, for outside parking and storage, correct?
Recently, yes.
Yes. So I mean, it's just all things considered. I just want people to know that there's a little bit more to the dump trucks not being pulled in and pulled out at all times of the day and all that. So I understand that people are concerned about it, living in Vernon. That's why I live here also. But I want people to know that it's not just gonna be in, out, 10 dump trucks all day long. And at this point, I know for a fact that he doesn't own 10 dump trucks. He's gonna end up, as time goes on, getting more and more hopefully, and that's what we do in business, right? We look forward to the future, and I just want him to be provided all of the same courtesies that Vernon provides. So, I'm sure I'm not gonna be that popular, but I wanted my voice to be heard about this too, because I've known this man for about 10 years, and he's one of the hardest working men I know. He's not there to upset the balance of anything, and if his trucks have to be backed in so they're not alarms going off in the morning, that's what he will do, and I would hope that he would do that. I guess I can't be there to hold his hand, but I think there's ways to help everybody, and a berm being put in at certain locations would obviously help all the sound. So,
Thank you.
if anybody wants to ask me a question, I'll be available.
Any other comments?
Dana Polson, W225 South 6835 Guthrie Drive, Big Bend, Wisconsin. So if he's gonna grow, how many more trucks is he gonna add? How is that not gonna affect resale value to the properties? How is that not gonna affect the quality of living with the trucks coming in and out, the traffic that it's gonna cause, everything else for the community around it? Plus, there are 2 properties that do have businesses that were told that they had to keep everything in-house. So what's the difference between the 2 properties that are on Guthrie and his? Laws might have changed, but they were required back then to keep everything housed, so why is it different? And then the other problem is, you said how much dirt was brought in? You know, they raised that whole pasture, and I know he's probably gonna say that the farmer did it. The farmer didn't do it. I even noticed that the pasture was raised, which means he was bringing in soil, which means he was banging and dumping and everything else. So there was noise. And the highway, that's nothing. All that construction, nothing. The banging, that's something.
Thank you.
Steve Polson, W225 South 6835 Guthrie Drive. Recently, if you're adding 10 more dump trucks in the area, especially at that National Avenue, it's hard enough to see around that area with trucks going in and out, and you're adding much more traffic. There's been a lot of accidents lately with trucks and vehicles and everything in that intersection there. But now you're really adding more congestion in that area. Plus with people are cutting from 164 down County Trunk U, Guthrie Road, they're all taking the shortcut that way instead of going up to the stoplights up there. So we're getting a lot more traffic now because people are going around there at that, that stop sign there. So we gotta consider with all these trucks now, it's gonna create more incidents, I think, because that's not that big of an intersection. And it's really hard to see, especially in the summertime when you got a lot of foliage there. It's gonna be really hard to see around that whole intersection there. So now you're creating possibility of more accidents with that many trucks, you know? And plus, he's got a rental business that he's bringing in there too. So now you got two businesses instead of just one. So now you're creating more issues yet, because he has a rental business too. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Wallace McLean. I live at 3120 North 34th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53216. I'm a driver for Alpazera, and I was walking around the property, okay, because I heard there was concerns about the noise level, okay. Now, when you have trucks that idles up, okay, then you have trucks that sit and idle, okay, there's going to be some noise. But you walk around the property, the noise level was considering that. I'm listening to stuff that comes off the expressway. It was pretty tame. And as far as going out in the mornings, your start time is like 7 o'clock, okay? You need to get there, so you have to have a time that you travel, okay? 6 o'clock start time, you leave off the property, okay? Summertime, plenty of light, people can see. Fall, you got strobe lights, okay? That's how you enter the property, you leave the property, let them know that you are leaving and coming and going, okay? And when you try to reach out to the neighbors to have concerns, you know, it's nice to sit down and be able to work things out, you know? But people kind of like, how can I say this to be fair? You know, kind of like, she asked about the growth of the trucks, okay? I was figuring if, I think it's only 5, it's 5 right now. So if he was putting out saying like, my business is gonna grow, that's the cap at 10, okay? I don't think that, you know, it's gonna grow. If it grows any more, he would have to leave the property, you know? I think that would be fair, you know? So it's just like getting your foot in the door, you know, growing a business. Everybody wanna do it, that's part of the dream. Okay? Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Can I make one statement from here, so I don't have to get up?
You got his name, Karen?
Yes, yes.
Urban Padzkowski, the only comment I had is, the gentleman talked about 10 trucks leaving at 6 a.m. in the morning. Well, there may only be 5 now, but 6 a.m. in the morning is the time I don't want trucks leaving past my house. And that will be 6 trucks, 10 trucks, whatever it is, out of that driveway across my house. My wife's already cussing and swearing about National Avenue. So, you know, she hears the dump trucks thundering down there all the time. The other issue I have is the road wear. What is that gonna do to Guthrie Drive, Guthrie Road, as far as the actual wear and tear on the road after numerous years of the trucks traveling? I know they're not loaded usually when they come home, but they're still dump trucks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Sir?
Hi. I'm Jim Porter, South 47, West 22455, Lonsdale Road, Waukesha. The property on the corner there, I've been farming it for 20 years. I've been dealing with Skip, the previous owner, for 29 years. Where the fill was dropped in, or put in, it was nothing but a drop-off, so bad that I was probably very nervous moving hay wagons in and out, especially the full ones. It was nothing but twisty, hilly, and anybody that was not a good operator would probably screw it up, or a halfway decent operator. The fill, I don't think there's enough fill around here to take care of the problem on that farm. When the road went in, way back before all of our time, they never put a culvert there on the corner because the water has to go west. So that's why all of us that live around here have seen that underwater for a whole year. Sometimes the ducks are living in it for a whole year. That's because it's not able to drain to the west. So to correct that, you can fill for a long, long time. But we're not here to correct that. We're here to give a young man an opportunity to do something. I've known him for 15 years. Back then, only he was at he had a water route, delivering water. Got to know him through that. Got to know him through farming. Moved in the area. Great man. Dealt with him with many things. In fact, he brought Phil to my farm when I needed it. And nobody complained when I was up here for all those years with my tractors in that field, around the buildings. Sometimes I would pull wagons, and sometimes 6 at a time when the rain was coming, because I shuttered them in the shed. Here a guy comes and has an opportunity to buy something that's somewhat commercial and to start up a business around businesses with a lot of activity. The biggest activity is the Quick Trip and McDonald's. And I feel that he would be an asset to the community, the town, the village. And I don't know what people are complaining about traffic. What the hell? There's a freeway here. Where are we? Yeah. I live on a highway. Guthrie is a highway. Sometimes during the day, on a good day, I will have 100 dump trucks go past my house. Maybe even more. And the county garage is right down the road. So I have a lot of them go past my house. I don't care. We need them. We need our community to thrive. And if you didn't like noise, don't build by a freeway. And I didn't think that I would have a lot of noise when I bought my farm. Hell, the noisiest farm I've ever been on. And if you see me out there, I probably have muffs on. Anyway, Jose and his family, I feel, would be an asset to the community. And about the fill, keep filling it in. I mean, there's a lot of room there. Or correct the problem, because you can't hardly farm it these days with everything sky high, prices of seed and fuel, when you're not going to get a crop out of it. So running a business out of there would be the best thing in my mind for that property. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'm Patty Kosinski, W225 S6855 Factory Drive. And I'll just reiterate what I said before is a sense of safety for those of us who do live on that road and in that area. Now, obviously, we moved there were no sidewalks. but it was still relatively safe. You know, it's wonderful to have the American dream, but I had a dream too, which was that I could ask my son to go get the mail. But I can't do that now. And if we're adding trucks and adding traffic, it's even worse. And I know that may not be important to very many people, but to me it is. For a sense of responsibility and a sense of safety for those of us who still have children in the area. The freeway has only been a problem during Harley Fest. And I can say that after living through many Harley Fests there. Yes, it was loud then. Now it's a kind of a hum that goes along and you just get used to it. So those of you who don't live there, I don't know how you can make a statement about what it is or what it is not.
Thank you.
Mike Krasinski, West 225, South 6855. That was my wife. I'm so proud. Yeah, I guess the two things. Noise. Yeah, the freeway can be a little noisy, but you know, I planted 300 trees that go up above it. I planted pines. We have our buffer. And it's almost all the way around my property. Now you're attacking me from the back. You know, at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, the truck's starting up and going. Listen, I'm a CPA. I love the American dream. I just don't want it waking me up every morning at 5:30. The problem is, you see this all as business. And yet, there's people that live there, and have lived there for 20, 25, 30 years. You're plunking down a big noisemaker that, I don't know how it fits your description of beauty, but to me, the horse farm was a beautiful thing to have on that corner. And keep farming.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I'm Carrie Vernon, W224S6825, oh, sorry, W224 South 6825 Guthrie Road, yeah. Oh, 6840, Guthrie, sorry. We are directly south from that property. The bedrooms are on that end where they're pulling in and out, parking. The noise level is absurd by 5 a.m. Nobody can sleep after that. This is a residential area. Shouldn't that be more looked at as commercial versus residential and in a residential location? I guess that's my biggest question. He doesn't really belong in our area.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Just one question on the residence that's there. Will that all be a residence, or will that have to be a business office versus a actual residence? Because I'm under the understanding that you can't have a business property with a residence on it, as far as from that standpoint, commercial.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Well, as an appraiser, this devalues.
Oh, you,
Sir? Yes, Tyler Polson, W225, South 6835 Guthrie Drive. I know we've spoke before, we operate under a conditional use the way we operate across the street. We're a small owner-operator business. We are not in an area intended to be commercial. So we have a conditional use permit. Now, I believe under that property, you guys own that as future commercial property. So shouldn't he have to rezone to commercial property to operate out of it? And then on top of it, I know Rick Walters talked to Karen Shu. He was denied a conditional use permit and was told he had to go to a commercial property and he has to house everything inside his building. So same with the other buildings as well.
in that area. They're commercial and they have to house everything inside. Now, not only does he have listed on his paperwork the trucking company, but he also has a heavy equipment rental business as well. Is that going to be operating under that same place? He's got several skid loaders and backhoes and other things that he rents. And not only are we talking about this trucking company, but are we going to be talking about a heavy equipment rental business there as well? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional comments?
I'm gonna come on back up for a minute and just clarify, the heavy equipment would be skidsters and mini
You
excavators.
just need to restate your name. You don't have to do your address, just your name for the
General
record.
Warner. I just wanna clarify, just so everybody knows that it's skidsters and mini excavators, not big excavators you see out on the freeways. So I just wanted to clarify that,
Thank you.
so.
Yeah, that's two businesses.
Stuff like that, but I believe there always was.
I don't
He only
think there
applied for
was.
one.
You gotta gavel them, they can't.
Yeah, I'm Jose. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the rental equipment they talking about, there's the ski lorries. I say I'm gonna storage on the building. I'm not gonna run the rental business out of there.
I just wanted to clarify something, because this is the first I'm hearing about a commercial rental business out of the property.
Yeah, but I'm not running the rental commercial out of there.
It's on the front.
I know he talks about equipment rental, but if you look at the actual narrative in the application as to what he wants to do, it doesn't talk about that at all.
No, we
Talks
just
about 10 trucks and employee parking, that's all that you're talking about.
Construction equipment storage on the building.
It says it's some equipment storage,
Equipment, but I don't run the rental business out of there.
but if those pieces of equipment are used for the rental, if you're renting those pieces of equipment out, that's the business.
Yeah, no, that property is gonna be just for the trucking business.
So what's in the barn?
Hay. The hay we built together with.
So what's the
people.
equipment in the barn?
The equipment and tractors, farm tractors,
For the farm?
yeah, for the farm.
Okay,
We use
so-
that place as a farm right now.
Okay, then that's, per the application that you've submitted, that's all you can do, is the trucks outside and the equipment
Yeah.
in the barn is for the farm.
So
Yeah.
where's the skid loaders and the
Those can't be on the property.
The one I bring is to clean up the place. If you see the picture.
Yes, if you use them just to clean the place up, that's
Yeah.
different. That's like if someone comes to your house and you hire somebody to improve things. I mean, there might be equipment on your property for, say that again?
What's the end date for it then?
I guess, we're doing back and forth here, and let's
Yeah,
get through and we'll.
Any other additional comments?
No, just whatever questions
Thank
they
you
have,
for
they-
clarifying. Do you want to answer some questions now, and then we can maybe come back?
Okay. You wanna,
If you wouldn't,
Tackle
if you
the
wouldn't mind, I
list
have a-
Are you gonna, Carrie, did you want your comment entered now, the comment about
Yeah,
when is
that
it going
would be
to
great.
end?
Yeah, when is, end date then, when does that equipment leave?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a list of comments and questions. I guess let's get the questions done. So the first question was how many businesses operating? I think we talked about that. There can be one business, it's the trucking company, and then and that's it. The barn as an ag property can store hay, can store farm equipment. That's permitted. The next question was outside storage of equipment and parking. Why is it allowed when it wasn't allowed, say, across the street, et cetera, et cetera? I wasn't around when the conditional use permit was permitted for the property across the street, so I can't speak directly to what was talked about as part of that. But I can say that the conditional use that's being applied for is a contractor's yard. So yard does allow the storage of equipment and materials outside if it's approved by the Plan Commission Board under the current law. The current law allows that to happen in a contractor yard. In fact, the last 5 contractor yards that I've been a part of that were approved all allowed outdoor storage as part of that. They're fenced, they were screened, they were, different things occurred based on the surroundings as part of that. So it's permitted to do under the current regulations. Next question was Could there be a driveway out to National Avenue? Let's put a pin in that one. We can ask the petitioner on that. Next question was, why does the sheriff's department handle this? Why do they patrol?
Yeah, what typically happens if we get a zoning violation or complaint, our building inspector goes out first. The only times the sheriff is called is if there's an emergency, or if I get a call or somebody calls 911. Or if we have to use the sheriff's department, we will, but typically it's Vince Budiak, our building inspector, and he doesn't charge for that, just you know.
Thank you. There was a comment about the fill, and that there was 2 to 3 trucks of fill per day. How could it possibly be under the limit for what's allowed by permits and erosion control and so on? All I can say is that the building inspector went out there. I didn't go out there. I trust his judgment. Based on what he saw, he took a look around and said that it fits within the guidelines of what's permitted without permits or approvals. Bypass lane, whether or not, why there shouldn't be a bypass lane out there. The petitioner did speak to Waukesha County DPW about the property, and I specifically asked about improvements that may be required, because you're right, a lot of times when you put a business in, that there has to be some type of improvement done, whether it's a bypass lane or turn lane or whatever it is. And the county did come back and said that there wouldn't be any additional improvements required based on the plan of operation by the petitioner.
And after the hearing, I did contact Jason again, because I wanted to know if he made his determination on the 4 trucks or the 10 trucks, and he said they made their determination on the 10 trucks.
Thank you. There was a few different questions about whether this is a commercial property or not, or should be a commercial property or be rezoned to commercial property. I did mention this last time. Do you want to switch over to my machine here?
You gonna put the land use plan up?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a plan. The village has had a land use plan for decades, essentially, in terms of what the land uses will be or could be in the future. And so we're talking about this property here, and the red represents future commercial uses. Right? It may not be commercial today, but the long-term plan for this whole area is commercial uses in the future. So if he wanted to, he could request to be rezoned to commercial, and we would look at the land use plan and say, well, yeah, that's what we have a plan for. You could rezone to commercial. It may not be a trucking business. It could be something else entirely. But the conditional use that's being requested at contractor's yard, that's a permitted conditional use of commercial, but it's also a permitted conditional use under A5 zoning. So he doesn't need to rezone in order to get the use that he's asking for. There were questions about road wear and tear, as to whether or not this would impact the roadways, and certainly it might impact the roadways. Those aren't villages. That's a county highway. Guthrie is a county highway, and National Avenue is a county highway. And so the county is certainly aware of the use that's being proposed. County DPW is, and they didn't raise any objections to it. Let's see. There was a question about, not a question, but a comment about the backup alarms, and this came up last time as well, and it's something we thought about since then. And so that we can ask the petitioner about this, but certainly one way to avoid the backup alarms in the morning would be to back the trucks in at night, and then so you just shoot out straight things. So if you're leaving at 6 in the morning, there won't be any alarms if you're just pulling straight out. So that certainly could be a condition of approval if this gets approved. How many more trucks would be brought on the site? Essentially, it's my understanding that the petitioner had 4 trucks currently. 10 trucks was the ultimate total that he's asking for now. That might be something in the future. It would be up to the Planning Commission board if you wanted to limit it. If you thought 10 trucks was too much based on noise and other impacts, you certainly don't have to approve 10 trucks as part of this. Let's see. Congestion and traffic on the roadways, hard to see, accidents near the intersection, et cetera, et cetera. This obviously would add up to 10 trips in the morning and then 10 trips in the evening. I think in the grand scheme of things, with the traffic on Guthrie and National Avenue, that's not a great deal more. Again, these are county roads. One of the conditions of a contractor's yard is it has to be on an arterial or a collector road, and these certainly fit the bill. I understand there might be some additional noise because the trucks themselves, but I don't necessarily think that the 10 additional trips on the county is going to make it any more or less dangerous.
Can I speak on that real quick? You haven't lived there. I've watched Flight for Life
You
come in.
you're out of order.
Yeah, we'll come back to you. We'll come back.
You're safe, that's safety.
Ma'am,
I understand it's safety. I guess there's no evidence that I could think of that adding 10 additional trucks to it is going to make these significantly more dangerous. I'm not advocating for the business. You have to understand that. I'm just going based on
Advocating for the community
what
that lives there.
what the conditions are or they're not. We have a set of regulations. We have a zoning ordinance. It's got certain conditions that we have to follow, and that's what we're trying to do. So I'm just speaking to the conditions and trying to answer the questions as best as I can. Let's see. Another question was, will the residents remain there? There's questions as to whether or not they could be a residence and the same property as a business. It's my understanding the residence will still be used. Again, this isn't commercially zoned, although we do allow residences to accessory residences to be on certain commercial properties as well. But this is zone A5. Certainly the residents can exist with the business at the same time.
Doesn't the Stoutware, the big, that you did a CU on National Avenue that has those big housing, it's the old Shea property, it's on National, it's right across from Enterprise Drive. That's a conditional use, and he lives in that
Yeah,
house.
there's many. I mean, we approved the storage business, the RV storage business on the north side of National. There's a house that exists there. There's a number of instances where there's a house, and it's permitted. So I just wanted to answer the question. I think that answers from my list of questions that I had. There's certainly
And the only thing I
comments.
wanted to state is, I'm not aware that Mr. Walters applied for a CU. It's my understanding when he came in and told what his business would be, it was told him that he had to rezone it. A CU wasn't possible.
It wouldn't have fit because a CU wasn't available.
Right.
So,
are there any further questions or comments?
What about all indoor storage?
You gotta come up to the,
Phil, Mike, please.
Linda Polson, why isn't all indoor storage even a consideration? You know, these people came and talked regarding his character. I'm not questioning his character. They don't live there, but once you live there, the freeway is nothing. And there was no 2 o'clock complaints. It's like 8 o'clock at night, he would come in, drop the tailgates. But there should be indoor storage, just to,
So I'll reiterate about the indoor storage. Again, it's not, the contractor's yard conditional use that's being applied for doesn't require it, and it allows outdoor storage, assuming it's properly screened and so on. That doesn't mean that you would have to permit it. If you wanted, or you thought it was necessary to store trucks indoors as part of this operation, that could be something that you require.
and it just state for the record that the Plan Commission or the board has not made a decision. They're listening to all the comments. They haven't even got a chance to make their comments yet either, so nobody's made a decision yet.
okay, because, like I said, everybody from Guthrie East is all indoor storage. And that's all new businesses. So, I don't understand. And if he wants that big of a company, then it should be rezoned as commercial.
Just to play devil's advocate, let's say it was rezoned commercial. Then what does that solve?
It would be different terms, maybe, I don't know.
They'd be allowed to do more and more intensive things in the property.
So then what would the hours of operation be?
Well, it would depend on what gets approved.
Sean, the last question was from Carrie about when it's gonna, Carrie, was your question related to?
Oh, yeah, sorry about, when is the cleanup end? Let's ask the petitioner that question and see what the thoughts
Because
are.
I feel there needs to be a time frame. We're right next door.
Understood.
And as far as a berm or the landscaping, it needs to be a soundproofing buffer zone.
Any further comments?
Hello, my name is Brandon Lopez. I live at W224S6800. I'm hearing a lot of concerns about safety. I do myself have a kid that lives there with me. And we are also trained through WCTC. We hire people that went through proper training for driving. We raise our concerns more when we drive. We are trying to look before the accident happens, so that makes sense. We're looking in advance. We try to prevent accidents. And like I said, I have a kid myself. Safety is also my concern.
Thank you.
I wonder if the petitioner would be willing to come up and...
I just want to say the safety thing. I watched her dog get hit. My cat has got hit on that road. I watched Flight for Life come in at least 3 times since I've lived there. They have landed on that road. That road is dangerous. And if you are concerned about our safety, that is our community. We have grown up there. We have lived there. We've been there for 20 plus years. It's a safety hazard. I don't care how much training you have. Accidents happen because other people are not paying attention. So if I lose my dog or my kid or someone gets hit because these dump trucks or other cars are barreling through, I can tell you right now, nobody obeys that speed limit on that road. Every time I walk down to go get the mail, someone's speeding past me. I have to look 3 times each way just before I cross. That's all.
Before you leave, help me understand if you would. Because I don't live there. You mentioned I don't live there. That's true. I don't live there. I don't know the specifics about this specific location. I just know it's a county highway, and it intersects with another county highway, and the freeway's on the other side, right? So what specifically about this stretch of road makes it so dangerous? I want to understand.
Well, because national, there's that stop sign right there, right? Like my dad said, you can't see around it. There's all that brush that's right there. So a lot of times you have cars that clip you off as they turn onto that road where the stop sign is when you're coming on to Guthrie off of National. They cut the turn, and if you're not back far enough, even though there's that white line, your front end's going to get clipped. They're speeding. I have watched cars barrel through to the farm and actually bust the fence and let the horses out where we've been chasing down and catching these horses. Flight for Life has come in several times. There's been severe accidents on the road. People not paying attention. I don't know, I can't explain to you why it is. I just know because I've lived there. I know. Stop well before the white line. Double check every time you're going to cross because you don't take chances on that road. You come down that hill, semis come, they're speeding, they're catching speed, they're not braking fast enough, and anything can happen. I mean, like I said, people don't pay attention to the speed limit too. Like going to get the mail, you have to look several times before crossing because I've walked down and just watched somebody go zoom right past. I've seen dirt bikes do wheelies down the road. Just nonsense, stupid stuff. It's safety.
Thank you.
I probably should have asked the Plan Commission Board if they have comments.
Does the Plan Commission or Village Board have any comments they'd like to address?
Well, the only thing is, my concern is the noise. I believe our noise ordinance is after 6:30. And I'm more concerned about the aesthetics. You know, I'm more concerned about make sure that he's keeping his property neat and well taken care of. I am for small business, but my mostly concern is the aesthetics and the amount of noise. And as long as they are driving their trucks courteously, I do not have a problem.
And who just took control?
I think we should bring the petitioner back up to answer some of the other questions, like, potential driveway that goes to National, or some of the other things that, Sean had written down.
Mr. Alpizar?
Breathe. Breathe and answer the question.
So I had three specific questions here. One was what the potential for bringing a driveway up to National Avenue was, and what your thoughts on that are. Number two, backing up the trucks at night so you can pull straight out in the morning and for the backup alarms. And then finally, the third one was, when does cleanup on the property start? When is all that equipment going to be removed, etc.?
Well, I started cleaning the property already, but I stopped because things came over and I took everything, all the trucks out of the property. Question number one, national driveway. When I call the county road highway, he told me it was safer to use Guthrie Road, because I do want to do a driveway in National, but National is more dangerous to do a driveway there because they're speeding, and Guthrie is like more slow traffic.
So you're saying the county told you that
Yeah,
you have access to Guthrie, they wouldn't give you access to National?
they told me there was more safety to do it on Guthrie instead of National.
Okay, what was the backup is fine?
Yeah, we can get up the
So
truck.
so is cleanup done, or when will it be finished?
Well, as soon as you guys told me start cleaning, because I
I
started
mean,
cleaning.
let's say, I mean, just throwing it out there, like within 2 weeks, is that possible to have the property
It
cleaned
depends
up?
on the weather, I mean, it's really cold.
Okay. Well, any other questions for
Yeah,
the
give me 2,
petitioner?
3 weeks, I just gotta clean up, remove the overgrown trees and.
Question, Sean, would it be linked to like an occupancy? Because obviously there have to be site improvements, so it's gonna have to be looked at by Vince. Assuming things go through, it would have to be looked at by Vince to see that the parking stalls are where they are and they're marked where they're supposed to be and all of that. So that, I think that would be when that time frame would be, you can't occupy it and start operating out of it until you get
It's
that
cleaned up.
occupancy permit. And then-
Sure, that could be tied together.
Could you repeat for us the conversation from last time about what time your trucks have to be on the job, what time they leave, and in order to leave at that time, especially when it's colder,
Well,
how
my
long they have to warm up?
yeah, my dispatch came already, so we come to the property at 6 o'clock, they park their normal cars, they get on the truck, turn the truck on, bell air, and they go to the job sites. They gotta be there at 7 o'clock. All depends, sometimes he send me dispatch for 8:30, 9 o'clock, sometimes we go late, you know. But the normal start time is 7 o'clock on the job site. So we leaving the property from, probably my drivers get there at 6 o'clock, turn the trucks on, and they're leaving the property around 6:20, 6:30.
But the noise starts when they start up the truck to warm it up. When is that?
I mean, it's really hard to hear the noise where I'm gonna park the trucks because the building is gonna block all the noise and everything.
Is that different from where they've been?
Yeah, yeah, we gotta have it on the other side, 'cause I was cleaning in the back and everything. It was not set up yet, but I took my trucks back to Waukesha Landscape.
And there's been a lot of conversation about the trucks being in a building, but you can't start it up with the door closed, right?
No,
The truck's running, the door is open.
yeah, no, it's not gonna work. I mean, if they want me to park my trucks inside, I can park the trucks inside, but it's gonna be more loud.
Oh, there was a question about
I mean, where I'm gonna park the trucks is gonna block the noise, because the building is right there, and the trucks are gonna be here, you know what I mean? And they live like really far from where I park the trucks.
And if you get up to the point of having 10 trucks,
I'll be moving out of there if I got 10 trucks. We have money to move out of there and don't have to deal with this. I wish I have 10 trucks and have everybody working. That's my goal, to have 10 trucks. I mean, if you guys wanna do at least 5 trucks for now,
Well, what I was actually looking to ask about was, you really can't predict when all of these trucks are leaving, whether you have 5 or you have 10.
No, sometimes the first one, sometimes they leave at 6:30 from the property. The other one leaves at 8 o'clock. Sometimes he give us dispatch for 9 o'clock. All depends on the contractor.
The early morning startup seems to be a.
I can answer these questions a little bit better if I may.
Yes,
One more question before you take off.
You gotta gavel, you gotta get, hold it. He's got the floor.
He's got the floor, let him finish speak.
How many trucks do you have right now?
At this moment, 5. I have a 4 quad axles and 1 day cab tractor.
Fine, Commissioner, Lily Board, have any more questions for Mr. Alpizar?
Probably more for Sean, I guess. He did submit a revised plan for landscaping along the south lot line. It shows a planting area. Do we know what that's gonna consist of, or what it looks like now?
There's some kind of sporadic scattered trees along that south property line there. It's not super dense at this point in time, so we don't know what this consists of. If I was recommending something, it would be a berm and then some evergreen plantings on top of it.
Without being able to go out on the site, it's hard for us to judge that.
Right. I don't know what it looks like, but it's you know, if we want to improve the landscaping anywhere on the site, this is the location to do it.
I guess I would like to see that plan.
Well, the other problem is if he starts bringing in more fill,
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
the neighbors are pretty upset with the fill he brought in already.
For the berm, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make it and, trees and everything, so. The way it looks like right now, in summer, it's really like, you don't really see, it's like overgrown trees.
And Sean, as a condition, can we limit the duration of this CU, like for 2 years, and then have him come back and review it?
You can limit the duration of CUs, yes.
And knowing that, so if there's any problems in between, that CU is gonna be null and void at that point. So if he doesn't keep up the property or do things that are on the condition, it could be terminated.
It could be terminated without limiting the duration of the
Right,
CU.
I realize
If he
that.
violates the conditions, we
Right.
can bring it back for hearing.
And has
terminate it.
anybody gone over the letter we got, or the regulations from the state that our attorney has given us?
I have looked at them. Those are the things we've talked about, and some of the things I tried to mention as I.
We pretty much have to issue a conditional use if he meets all the conditions.
If he can meet reasonable conditions, those in the ordinance and those that you impose tonight, reasonable conditions, then you have to approve the conditional use. Again, because conditional uses for the state are essentially permitted uses with reasonable conditions.
Right. We're a little bit limited there.
It's limited, but again, you're not limited to the number of trucks is one thing without putting them out of business, obviously. I mean, if you make it so you say 1 truck, well then that might be too restrictive. Location of the trucks, that's something you can talk about. Hours of operation, when they operate, how they back in, how the business is run. All those things are fair game.
Right.
Screening, landscaping, all those things.
Who at the county said that you should be using Guthrie and not National?
Jason Mayer.
Their engineer. And I don't know if you remember when Miller came in, they denied their access point. I mean, they're probably gonna reapply again, but.
Onto National.
Right, and the county is restricting limitations because they're gonna rebuild National Avenue from 164 all the way to Crowbar in 2028. Complete reconstruction.
We might be able to do my driveway after on National. I mean, I don't mind, I don't want no trouble, I wanna work with them too,
Isn't that an extremely low area down there that driveway would have to go through? That's where the water sits.
Yeah.
How many truckloads of fill would have to be hauled in to put that road in?
Remember when they filled the quarry
We don't have a problem with it.
That's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Oh, there's gravel pit too.
All right, the board, plan commission, any further questions for Mr. Alpizar?
Oh, Mr. Alpizar, you know, if we were to give you the permit or whatever, I mean, you have to be a good neighbor by keeping your property out.
I'm a good neighbor. The thing is, they don't know me, and I feel like I was running on their property with Jim Porter for like 20 years. They never see my face, but as soon as they know who I am, I feel like, you know,
I totally.
I just don't want to say anything. I mean, I try to build a business, live my life, and be nice. If you go on my other house, I mean, I don't have a problem with neighbors. I plow the driveways for free and everything. I help my neighbors.
Farming and trucking are two different businesses.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alpizar. Public, any more questions or comments before I close the public hearing? Last chance, any more comments or questions?
Daryl Knockrenner, W224, Salt 6840, Guthrie Drive. I would just like to see a definite landscape plan for the south side of the property. You know, see what it is. It sounds like it's gonna go through or whatever this is. And the hours of operation, definite hours of operation. So our house is pretty close on the south side.
Our bedrooms, yeah.
So I would definitely like to see some kind of landscape plan and what he's gonna do to kind of curb the noise.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Last chance for questions or comments. Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Moving on to the next public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Village of Vernon Board and Village of Vernon Planning Commission on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Vernon Village Hall located at W249 S8910 Center Drive, Big Bend, Wisconsin 53103. To consider amendments to the Village of Vernon's Land Division and Development Control Ordinance, Chapter 200, including specific changes to cul-de-sacs in Section 200-8, 200-32, and 200-34. For information regarding these proposed amendments, a copy of the proposed ordinance is available for public review during normal office hours from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Village Vernon Hall and the Village Vernon website under the public hearing tab of the website. All interested parties will be heard.
You're gonna have to gavel them, tell them to go outside.
Hey, take it out. Can you move outside, please? We need to be quiet in here. Thank you. Sean, with the update on?
Yeah, we talked in detail about the potential changes at the last Plan Commission board meeting, and then prior to that, we've also discussed this. Essentially, the
guys,
can you move outside, please? We need to be quiet in here.
No worries, thank you very much. So the gist of the proposed changes to the land division ordinance were related to cul-de-sacs. One was the definition of the cul-de-sac, which clarified the measurement and how it's measured. A number of changes to the design standards, which looked at what happens and what can happen to the adjacent tracks at the end of a cul-de-sac, when it has to be extended, what happens to the property, how it can be divided and developed at the end of the cul-de-sac. We looked at the length, previously 600 feet. The proposed changes are for 1,200 feet of length. Anything beyond that would be a waiver. It would be open-ended, essentially. That would consider the topography, consider potential for connectivity, traffic. It would need fire department approval. And then we did away with temporary versus permanent cul-de-sacs. Essentially now it's just a cul-de-sac. Has to be dedicated every time. That doesn't mean it can't be extended if it's at the property line that's adjacent. But that eliminates essentially all the headaches that we get when we have a temporary cul-de-sac and the bulb and the pavement is on private property and never gets extended, and then people have essentially pavement in their front yard. So that's the gist of the changes. I'd be happy to go into any detail if there's any questions about any of this.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this? Any public comments?
Sorry.
Hearing no public comments. Plan Commission, Village Board, do you have any comments?
Here comes Dan.
Where does the cul-de-sac end if you're coming up to an abutting property?
Where does the right-of-way or the cul-de-sac
Where's the
bulb?
bulb go?
It's based on the dimensional standards of a cul-de-sac. And so if the intent is to get it to I don't have it in front of me, but essentially the bulb and then the right-of-way goes around it. So the right-of-way hit the property next to it, and then the bulb would be
Does
just
the
beyond.
bulb have to move into the adjacent property so that you have at least 66 feet on
No.
the cord?
No, the
To
right-of-way,
extend that?
the right-of-way's got to touch, but the bulb wouldn't necessarily hit the property next door. If the property next door develops, they would attach a road to the cul-de-sac and bring it onto their property, because it's in public right-of-way. Does that make sense?
No, I'm not following you, but.
So,
Yep.
let me just rephrase it. If someone develops a property and then brings a cul-de-sac all the way through and hits the property next to it, right? The actual pavement of the bulb doesn't touch the property, just
Right.
the right-of-way does. The bulb would be a distance away. Did you want to say something?
Really wants to draw a picture.
You've got a property line here and you've got a right-of-way that comes up to it and make a bulb.
Right.
Just the tip of that bulb has to touch the line?
No, not even the tip of the bulb would have to touch the line. It would essentially be the distance, whatever the right-of-way, the distance between the pavement and the right-of-way, anywhere else in the cul-de-sac bulb would be the same as that distance there. So it's like 15 feet. There would be a gap of about 15 feet between the pavement and the right-of-way.
Right.
And when the property next door develops, they'd essentially just continue that bulb and tack onto it.
The right-of-way is a circle.
The right-of-way is a square. Or a circle. If it butts up against another property, it's going to be a circle here, and when it hits this, it'll basically square off.
It's going to be flattened out.
At that edge.
Okay.
Right. The important part is to make sure the right-of-way of that road, of that cul-de-sac
Well,
road
that's what I
touches the
was
adjacent
saying, that
property.
the chord across that radius
Yeah,
has to be 66.
yeah, it wouldn't just be a point, right? It wouldn't just touch at a point, right?
Right.
If it's a circle, it'd be the whole distance. Yes, but that's a good point.
So is it up to us to determine where that cul-de-sac goes, or is it up to the developer?
Well, if the plan is to extend it, it's up to us to determine whether or not it needs to extend to the property next door. If we have a property we know is going to be developed in the future next door, and for access purposes, we have to get that road to get through there eventually.
So how is it any different that we determine that the property next door needs an access there or a road pattern?
Mm-hmm.
This is a fully dedicated cul-de-sac.
Right.
How is it any different than having the temporary here?
Because if it
We're
never...
gonna have a lot on each side of that,
Yeah.
and that it's not gonna be on their property, but it's gonna look pretty awkward.
The difference is if the property next door never gets developed, then you never have an issue with pavement on people's private property, because that temporary cul-de-sac never got
Right, but
extended.
you're still gonna have a permanent cul-de-sac.
That's
there,
okay.
Even though the road's going through.
No. No, if the road goes through, then that bulb would essentially be just like a temporary cul-de-sac where you take the bulb off, it doesn't
But now
exist
you're-
anymore.
Now you're saying it's temporary.
It's permanent forever and ever unless the property next door gets developed.
Just like the
And then
subdivision you approved, that we approved on Pheasant Drive.
Right.
We had to, you knew for a fact that was gonna extend because of the.
That was, okay, there was a temporary one there.
Right.
Right. So the temporary versus permanent, the only thing that solves is that if the property next door never gets developed, you're not left with pavement on a cul-de-sac bulb on people's private property.
Okay, but if this permanent one gets extended, who removes?
Whoever extends it and develops that property next door removes the pavement, just like it happens now with the
Okay.
temporary.
But you still have that.
You would chop off the bulb
And restore it.
and restore it with the ditch and everything else.
And where does that property go?
It's
that village property?
It's right of way, yes.
The right of way? You're gonna have that circular
It could,
pattern in the
right.
lot.
Yes.
So the trucks can turn, or
The issue is that there's been so many temporary cul-de-sacs over the years that have been developed and never extended for whatever reason. The neighbors don't want to see the property next door developed, it never gets pushed. You know, there were so many of them that were done based on, they actually couldn't be extended because of wetlands and everything else. But,
right.
you know, just,
Well, that's, planning commission should.
and yet, I know they should have been better off, but these property owners have this pavement in their front yards that is never gonna go away. And people drive in their front yards essentially in perpetuity on, it's not even right away, it's just their yards. So the village attorney thought, and I don't disagree, that the way to handle that is that you just don't allow temporary cul-de-sacs anymore.
But the permanent one could be temporary.
It could be.
Yeah.
But you'll never have the problem of pavement in people's front yards again.
I don't know if that's gonna solve any of our problems, but.
Well, it will solve the problem of pavement in the front yards.
Any other questions? I had a couple, Sean. Right now, we're saying 1,200 feet. You can extend the cul-de-sac.
We go from 600 to 1,200 would be the baseline. Yeah.
Okay. Now, say we extended 1,200 feet. Now, a couple years later, the property owner says, well, I want to put another one perpendicular at 1,000 feet and going 1,200 feet at a 90-degree angle.
Right, so it's not 2,400 feet. Or
Well,
whatever.
it'd be a new cul-de-sac off of that one.
Right.
I mean, how do we distinguish, where does it stop?
Well, the measurement as we defined in the ordinance now is basically you'd measure it based on the furthest bulb and the point at which there's two alternate access points out of it. So if they're trying to add on to an existing cul-de-sac, then it exceeds 1,200 feet in length. You can approve it, but it requires a waiver to approve.
If they just keep saying, okay, but just, like, it just keeps continuing because it's
Yeah,
going in a different direction.
it could, but again, you're gonna look at all the conditions we have written in here, the topo, the connectivity, whether or not it's gotta be too much traffic, whether there's alternate ways in and out, whether the fire department approves it or not, so.
Because a lot of the cul-de-sacs in these older subdivisions, you know, they go back 2,000-3,000 feet off the main road.
Sure, absolutely.
And there's no other way out, and all of a sudden you're coming off of that and doing another 12.
Well, they have to come and ask. They
Yeah,
have to come and
so,
ask.
or we're gonna allow it, but once it's,
We're gonna have a waiver process to allow it.
okay.
We don't allow it by right, because 1,200 feet's the length. And so one cul-de-sac, another cul-de-sac, another cul-de-sac off the cul-de-sac is still all one big cul-de-sac. That's
You
how
know,
we measure it.
And then, say we would allow a 1,200-foot cul-de-sac to go in, would that trigger, I mean, that could be a lot of houses on 1,200 feet. Would that trigger the need for passing lanes on the main road where it's originating, off the arterial street?
Based on our zoning ordinance, like R1, for instance, is a common district, it's 150 feet of width, so that's 8 houses a side. That's 16 houses essentially, give or take, on a cul-de-sac. You're saying, will that require improvements? Like, I guess it all depends on how much traffic is already on that road, but not necessarily, not for
I don't
16
know, well, when we
homes.
put in 12 lots, we had put all the passing lanes.
It all depends on if it's
You
dumping,
know,
if it's dumping on a county highway, if it's dumping on,
That's
you
what
know.
I'm saying, because a lot of these old subdivisions have a lot of homes. Now we're gonna put another 16 homes on there and create more traffic. You know,
It's possible, and when someone comes in, we may require a traffic study.
You turn, or you know, going around the right, or.
But only a traffic study could tell us that, right? So if something comes in and we're concerned about it, we'd require a traffic
Yeah.
study and then determine if it has to happen or not.
I was just saying, is that worded in there anyway so that people are aware of that, and all of a sudden, well, it doesn't say that anywhere, you know, or.
Not under the cul-de-sac section do we
Okay.
talk about traffic studies.
I just don't want to all of a sudden throw that out there and all of a sudden get thrown back at us where, well, this is what it says, and nothing says about a traffic study.
There's
or-
other language generally in the ordinances that allow
Okay.
us to require that any time we need to.
Just making sure we're covered.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
One question I would have, if you have I'll call it a branch, so we have a major road, and we have a branch that goes into a property, and we have multiple what we would consider a cul-de-sac, the bulb itself that comes off of it. Do we treat that whole street as one cul-de-sac? Or is like this bulb all the way out is one cul-de-sac, that bulb all the way out is another? Or do those get added together, or just
Well,
with this language?
I think the only thing that really matters is the longest cul-de-sac, right? So whatever the longest distance is from that point to the longest bulb is the distance we care about.
But it wouldn't necessarily add the distance from this one, plus the next one, plus the next one. Because I can see that branching being a way to kind of alleviate, and as long as this language would allow, I like that idea, the longest one becomes kind of the governing, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't interpret that way unless you think we need to clean up the language in some way, but I think the way it's written in terms of alternate routes of access, in terms of the measurement, does cover us. That's my opinion.
Is 1,200 feet pretty standard in all the other communities?
1,200 feet or a quarter mile is the most standard.
Ours is really restrictive.
600 is very restrictive.
Sean, I think, like Mike's discussion about cul-de-sacs brings up the point about you measure the cul-de-sac from the center line of the road that it's coming off of.
Mm-hmm.
Can that road be a cul-de-sac?
There has to be.
You're supposed to be able to go two different directions, but if it only goes
No.
200 feet.
No, it's got to connect to the network, essentially.
Right, so that's what we've been talking about is an impossibility probably.
Yeah, I mean, again, just getting back to it, if you have one cul-de-sac and there's a bunch of cul-de-sacs coming off of it, we would look at each one that comes off there to make sure the 1,200 feet measurement is back to the main road.
Right.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Any comments from the public? All right, hearing no other comments, questions, I will close the public hearing. Moving on to discussion and possible action on the request for applicant Jose Alpazar for the property located at W224 W6800 Guthrie, Big Bend, Wisconsin 53103, identified by tax key number BNT 2017981 for conditional use permit and site plan of operation for contractor's yard. Subject to the public hearing is agenda item number 4. Discussion and possible action by the Village Plan Commission and to the Village Board. Plan Commission, you have?
Yeah. First off, that's probably more public comment than I've seen in total in my couple of years here.
We should attend a cell tower public hearing.
I had enough in that I had to veto the person having a dog at 10 o'clock at night. You know, there's a lot of frustration with the past. Try to put that aside because we're planning for the future here. I think the concerns are in the area of noise and safety. Addressing the latter first, the majority of the safety concerns seem to me to be related to the road condition as is, with or without this business. This business is going to be a small increment to the traffic on that road. It would appear that the main issues related to safety are really the purview of Waukesha County. And I'm open to hearing what can be, put in this conditional use to aid in safety. Certainly appreciate the concerns of the public, but we seem to have very few lever arms that we can accomplish related to this business, this CU, and the overall conditions on that road. So I then focus on the noise issue. And a lot of people seem to have very valid concerns about how early in the morning they're hearing noise. That's why I have questions about that. I don't understand these trucks and all the different vagaries as far as time of year and jobs. And even if you have a prime customer today, to me, nothing is forever, nothing's guaranteed, everything changes. It's the only for sure thing. And there was many people brought up about having the trucks in a building, but again, that's why I asked the question, what is that going to do about noise? What's that going to do about safety? So, related to noise, what we can do is limit trucks, limit early morning startup, as far as what's possible. And so, and this backing in trucks at night, which everybody seems to be agreeable to, that seems to be a non-issue. And, you know, I'd say necessary landscaping, whatever that is, and I always defer to the experts, not me, on what that is. And people will have to accept that if there is additional landscaping work, that's going to be additional truck happening. Yes. That's it's going to be proportional, whatever, you know, makes sense. So just noodling along, I see that in a minute. Maybe a limit of like 8 trucks and a 6 a.m. earliest startup for noise might make sense. Trying to find some middle ground here. That's my longest statement ever.
I just wanted to tell the Plan Commission and Board, under our noise ordinance, there is an exception in the noise ordinance for construction, repairs, maintenance, remodeling, demolition, grading, or other activities related to the improvement of the real property between the hours of 7 a.m. to dusk. So there is an exception when somebody's trying to, you know, put the berm in or make improvements. We do allow that 7 a.m. till dusk, just so the Plan Commission and Board are aware of that provision.
To me, I kind of agree with the landscaping thing. I think there should be a pretty substantial berm on that south property line, and we shouldn't be parking vehicles along it. But I'm not opposed to the vehicles being parked outside behind the building. I don't think that is an issue. I do, however, I think the time of day, I'd rather see them come back later in the afternoon rather than start earlier in the morning if possible. Something like 7 to 7 would be more agreeable to the neighbors, I would think.
I don't know, I mean, dealing with the contractors, you know, they start by 7 a.m. It's gonna take you a half hour, 45 minutes to get to a job site a lot of times. Hopefully it's not farther away. I got a couple of friends in constructions and they're driving usually an hour to get to the site or something, it's not uncommon. Also, for the number of vehicles, I don't see 10 trucks versus 8 trucks making really any difference on that road.
I feel the same way.
As far as safety, a big truck is easier to see than a small car flying down the road.
Some trucks usually don't speed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a block to get to National Avenue. Thank you.
So, you know, so as far as the number of trucks, I'm fine with to 10. Hours of operation, I understand he's gotta start at 6. I'm sure he'd even like to start earlier, but 6 is doable from the way it sounds. What was the ending hour?
6 p.m.
6 p.m., 6 to 6, 12-hour day. Yes, and as far as parking vehicles outside, it's the contractor's yard. Of course they're gonna be outside. You know, it's kind of an obvious in the wording of the name.
And the location of the trucks, if they're behind the building, it's as good as being stored indoors anyways, because nobody can see them back there.
Yeah. And being next to the freeway, it's kind of an ideal place for a contractor's yard versus more of a residential area. Also, did we ever get clarification on the property lines? You make it all one property?
In the current, the plan that was submitted right before this meeting, there's basically a jog in the property line, so jogs, it's not quite good enough. Essentially, the setback from adjacent properties that are not residential is minimum of 50 feet, unless the Plan Commission chooses to reduce that, but it can't be reduced less than the setback, the normal setbacks and offsets for the zoning district, which is 30 feet. So you gotta have at least 30 feet separation between the operation and the adjacent property line. Even though it's owned by the petitioner, that's what it has to be. So I would also remind everybody that as part of this approval, if it gets approved, another condition would be to get a certified survey map approved so that can be adjusted. So this won't go into effect until that certified survey map is approved as well.
And do we want to tie it going into effect with final cleanup?
Yeah, final cleanup is, so no occupancy or no starting of the operation until final site cleanup and all equipment and everything else is off the site. Sounds like everybody's in agreement with all the trucks and parking behind the building, right? Instead of on the south property line. We could also make a condition of approval that the landscape plan, because it's got to come back for CSM anyways, that landscape plan be approved by the Plan Commission and Board at that time as well.
You know, I'm worried about approving, requiring a mound to be put in on that side.
The berm, yeah.
Yeah, because people are pretty upset about the fill coming in already, that they hear trucks dumping even more.
The one thing the berm would help a little bit is it would dissipate some of the sound. I mean, the evergreen trees is not going to do anything for the sound. I mean, that just doesn't. It's either you need a wall or a berm to stop the sound. And the berm, I'm not sure how much room is there, but you'd want to get at least 6 feet high, so that if you're standing up in your house or in your backyard, that's going to at least cut some of that noise.
That's a lot of fill.
I know.
If they think that it's being brought in, bring the sound down, they may put up with it for a while, bring in the stuff to make it go out.
Well, how many days of fill is it? I mean, it can't be that much.
Yeah, it can't be, I mean, if you truck for a couple days, it wouldn't be.
Right. He's got the dump trucks. I mean, you could. I don't know how many cubic yards that is, but I mean, it can't be more than a day or two.
Where would that berm have to go? Is that right on the lot line?
Well, it'd have to be. It couldn't be. You'd have to leave at least a foot or two and then start the berm up, and then you don't want to slope any greater than like 3 to 1.
There's some vegetation there right now.
They would have to be cleared. It'd have to be cleared with new trees above it.
Start over.
If there's a berm, yeah.
Or fill
you can't bury it.
Well, yeah, I guess I'd rather see a fence and some landscaping maybe outside the fence.
I was gonna suggest a solid fencing.
Yeah.
There's a fence already there.
What's the fence?
The horses used to be outdoor arena.
That's not solid.
Not solid.
That's not solid fence.
Okay, so a solid fence with landscaping on the opposite side, essentially. So the neighbors would get some landscaping and then a fence beyond that.
Well, the fence isn't going to stop any sound, and then the landscaping should help restrict any view in addition to the stuff that's already there.
It is required by our ordinance.
Unless it's, but you can lessen anything. So it requires a planting screen of 6 feet high, or 10 feet high.
Actually, 15 feet wide.
Right, that can be reduced based on the Plan Commission's recommendations.
Yeah, I don't like plants that large because it's success of them surviving is usually.
Yeah,
pretty
you
low.
can't plant anything that big at the beginning,
Talked
no.
about that
No,
before,
but if the
and-
berm
Yeah.
is big enough, the sound is gonna go, it's gonna shoot up and over rather than.
Yeah, if you get a 5-foot high berm and 5 foot high of plantings on top, that would be 10 feet. I don't know, what do you think?
I guess I would rather see the fence and some landscaping on the outside of it.
I'd just rather see some landscaping. I don't think the fence is gonna really do anything. Cause you already got bushes,
I don't
shrubs,
know what's there
junk.
now, you can't tell from the area.
It's kind of scattered things, it's not,
It's just kinda going wild.
yeah, not dense evergreens, right? It's not, in the wintertime, you can see through, I mean, evergreens would be important, right?
Yeah.
Clear out a lot of the brush and put in some evergreens.
Like pine or something.
Yeah.
I see plant some evergreens on side of the brush, don't take any brush out to open up any view.
So you want them to bring back a plan with evergreen, like thick evergreen plantings through that?
Right. Getting back to the CSM, Sean, can you pull up that GIS map?
Okay. So essentially what would happen is that the lot line would bump
Yeah,
out.
not that one, the GIS, it shows the whole property all the way to National. There you go. We don't have our full dedications on our right ways.
We don't, but those would be dedicated as part of the CSM,
That would be part of it? Okay.
They always are.
to the county, dedicated to the county.
That was a concern I had, that
Yeah.
as long as we're going to
Yep.
CSM, that we should
Yeah, anytime we
get that
do.
resolved.
We'll ask or their surveyor will ask the county what they,
Okay.
what the right of way is, and we'll dedicate it.
I also just wanted to add, to put it into context, I think, Karen, you mentioned when they were talking about Miller Pipeline, they said 75 outdoor. They have 200 that we approved outdoor. Their operating hours are from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday. So that's a pretty apples to apples comparison. It's emptying right onto National Avenue, similar distance to, the freeway entrance ramp and exit ramp. In my estimation, closer to a lot of residential density. This is a lot closer to what's already transitioning over time. There are going to be people who are upset, but that's the way that we see that area developing. So I wanted to know for myself, seeing that 5 a.m. start time makes me think 6 is, we're already lessening that burden on them from a noise standpoint.
And I can tell you too, with Miller Pipeline, it isn't so much the trucks, because they have those big, excavating trucks. It's the fence that, they have the OSHA fence that anytime, beep.
Oh, yeah.
But there again too, you get used to it. I believe it or not, you do get used to it. And I live right by the freeway, and
They get used to the expressway there too.
and we've had at least 4 people die right in front of our property, and it isn't the road, it's unfortunately the people driving on
Yeah, they go quick on that
it.
shit.
And there were no trucks, they were all.
And then the other 2 points I wanted to mention, I would have hoped that they would have stuck around to hear some of this back and forth. When we talk about the oversight and enforcement, there are annual reviews that happen that is on a staff level. So that, when you're talking, Dan, about, is there some type of probationary period, or do we set a limit on it? There is, that review process. If they're a bad neighbor and there are calls and calls and calls, then it comes back to us, as well as those annual reviews in between that. And then the other thing is, it limits any materials on site as well. So these are empty trucks leaving and coming. There's no, we do have some contractors' yards where we're talking about storing salt or all of those types of things. So this, if all of a sudden they start to bring back millings all the time, that's a violation of their CU, and then it gets, revisited.
Karen, maybe you remember when that was a horse stable there. Did people keep their horses there?
I don't think it was a commercial, but that's even before my time.
Yeah, there's 40 stables there already for horses.
Did they board horses?
Yeah, they used to board horses there, so those Arabian horses.
So they had a lot of traffic coming in and out for the horses,
But they
probably.
wanna see horses, they don't wanna see people.
And I remember summers too, when that was just all flooded,
Oh, yeah.
pulled the water down.
Many springs that was wet down in
Well,
there.
look at the elevations. I mean, you can't, I mean, water's gonna go where water's gonna go.
So for additional, just to recap here, for additional conditions above and beyond what's already in the staff report, have to have the property cleaned up by occupancy and use, trucks have to back in, hours of operation, again, are gonna stay the same, 6 AM to 6 PM. Landscape plan is required with dense evergreen plantings along the south property line, which will be reviewed by the planning commission and board. And then the number of trucks, so we heard 8 trucks, and then we heard 10 trucks. What's the consensus on
Have
that?
you ever had somebody, I guess, you know, if we limited it for 5 trucks for now and then in a year we revisit it, is that possible?
You could write that in if you wanted to.
You need another public hearing then?
Yeah, would it need to be a public hearing?
No,
Would it
because-
cost them as much money?
We wouldn't need another public hearing. Oh, to change it? We could write it in so it doesn't need a public hearing. We could write whatever rules we want.
Because if the neighbors are content over the next year, then I don't see a reason why you don't go from 5 to 10. But if there's 100 different situations of non-compliance.
Well, he's currently at 5 right now. He's got 4 quad and 1 small one, so, yeah.
Here's what I'm worried about doing in that situation, and something we've already talked about, is that if you tie it to neighbors' complaints, for instance, right, then yeah, it's just gonna happen, right?
This is not a quiet bunch.
No. I know we off the record, I'm sorry. I know we off the record.
We can't do public back and forth right now, sorry.
No, I don't want you to, I was just gonna make a
I
mistake.
think you're probably right, Sean, in there. That's in writing,
You know, the trucks are basically leaving in the morning, then coming back. It's not where they're in and out, you know, rotating.
Pretty minimal.
Minimal, yeah. So that's why I don't really have a problem with the 10 trucks.
The reason I
Neither
suggested,
do I don't.
the reason I suggested 8 was somewhat because the applicant said if he had 10 trucks, he would be moving anyway.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Wait.
So that was a consideration. And
Once he hits 10, he'll go.
You'll be back asking for 12, yeah.
And it was a consideration for the neighbors, you know. So that's why I.
And a compromise, right, and a compromise.
Sean, in your additional conditions, did you mention the certified survey map?
It's already in there.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so the CSM, so he's going to have to hire a surveyor, come back with the CSM. We can approve this tonight if you want to do that with all these conditions. It's still contingent on that CSM getting approved, and so that will come back. And the landscape plan.
Do we need to clarify that it's based on the newly submitted as of today?
The new
Because
site
one of
plan.
the things that I like about this new site plan is it takes that parking, which if you can imagine, people pulling in and parking, their headlights are gonna be
Yeah,
right at the
facing-
neighbor. This is getting all behind it, so I think reflecting that it's based on that new.
Yep, new site plan, gotcha.
As well as backing in whenever.
Got
Yeah.
that too.
You know, as much as possible. I mean, there'll be exceptions where you can't always back in, but the majority of the time you probably could.
We will just leave it in that the trucks are required to back in at night when they drop off, and leave it at that.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Village of Vernon Plan Commission recommending to the Village of Vernon Board to approve the conditional use and site plan of operation request for Jose Alcazar for the property located at W224S6800 Guthrie Drive, Big Bend, Wisconsin 53103, subject to the following conditions, 14 plus.
Plus the ones we just
Just
added as
talked
part of
about.
discussion.
Somebody want to make that?
I will make that motion for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Milrack. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Village Board, Is there a motion to concur with the plan commission?
I'll make the motion to concur with the planning commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Pecca. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
So just contact me about the certified survey map if you have questions about it, otherwise, you know, you
About
can.
the landscape, what just.
And that too, yeah.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
Is there a number by any chance I can text you guys? Because we also pave and mill hospitals, but that's like once they close. So it's very rare. It's very rare.
No, I just know that this can come in the area.
Jose, have him text me.
Okay.
Now I can text you that it's gonna
Yeah.
happen that day.
I'll give it to Jose, and, yeah.
Thank you.
So we can go now?
Yeah. Unless you want to stay, Jose, we've got another public.
I might come back, you never know.
You can keep us company.
Thank you.
Thank you, happy New Year.
You don't wanna talk about cul-de-sacs with us?
All right. Moving on to possible action for the amendments to the Village of Vernon Land Division Control Ordinance regarding cul-de-sacs, subject to public hearing in agenda item number 6. Plan Commission, Village Board, do you have any more comments, questions, concerns?
So typically, you know, what happens is the plan commission makes a recommendation to the village board to have staff draft an ordinance and contingent on legal review if you're obliged to adopt these amendments. And the reason I'm asking is we're going to ordinance codification soon. And I'd like to get this one in our actual codification process.
Okay.
The board at the next meeting then would still review the ordinance,
Right.
drafted ordinance.
Yeah, at the next village board meeting. But it would be drafted based upon the context of the amendments that you had in your packet.
So how would you like the motion to be worded?
Just typically that they approve the amendments as presented by the planner contingent and have staff and direct staff to draft the ordinance contingent on legal review.
Is there a motion
Do you really
from,
want to say the word approve, that we approve?
What you recommend to the village board approval, I'm sorry. Was that your motion, Mario?
The thing that I know the least about these days.
Mario wanted to put the word canoodling in there somewhere.
I heard that.
You added the cut.
And the longest speech he's ever made, I got that down, Mario.
I'll make that motion.
Not the longest speech I ever made, the longest statement I ever made here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, Mr. Alex already made that motion.
Is there a second?
Was there a motion?
Yeah.
But-
Yes.
Michael Alex,
Second by Dan.
Commissioner Novak.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That was a recommendation to the board, right?
Mhm.
So,
Now the
I'll
board
make a motion at the board level.
I'll second it.
of concurrence, gentlemen?
Yep.
Okay.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to village board discussion and possible action to appoint Dylan Newman to serve out the plan commission member term of myself, Jeff Millies, to April 15th, 2025. Dylan, you are willing to take that on?
Yep.
Any discussion on that?
For a motion?
I'm here anyway.
I'll make the motion.
If he thinks he's getting out by April.
Motion made by trustee Pecca,
I'll second.
second by
Trustee Finch.
trustee Finch. Any further discussion?
Did we
Hearing none.
require a background check?
I already did one, Dan, he failed.
Fingerprints, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. God, I shouldn't say it.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Welcome to the
All right, moving on on to village board and joint plan commission meetings dated October 11th.
2023.
Yes.
That's way before my time.
Wait till you see next meeting.
I'll be sick that day.
You got both
What day
boards
is that?
next to the plan commission.
The next plan committee is
Next
February
one.
8th.
We
Wait,
have a
February.
quorum on the plan commission.
Right. But we have to have one on both of them.
February 12th?
Yes.
So we need, are you still on both, okay? Okay. So we're,
You took them, you put them out for that, so
just making sure.
we're not.
Yeah,
live.
February 12th is the next plan commission meeting. And you'll probably have 8 or 9 sets of minutes. That's how far behind we are.
Minutes. And maybe, I think it will be gone probably.
Well, we have 5 members now,
Okay.
right, President Millies?
Correct. All right, I didn't see any need for any corrections, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 11th, 2023. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Planning Commission, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Village Board? Is there a motion to concur with the
I'll make a
approval
motion.
minutes? Made by Trustee Newman,
Oh,
second by Trustee Pecca. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to November 8th, 2023 minutes.
I'll make a motion, we accept as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mario. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Village Board, motion to approve the minutes from November 8th, 2023.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Trustee Finch, second by,
I guess I'll second it.
second by Trustee Newman.
Oh, I think I may have to remain absent on October 3 because.
You already voted. You can't retract it. You're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for November
I was
8th
testing you.
For November 8th, I'm gonna have to abstain because that was way before my time here.
So was November, October, January, no. I have your abstention.
All right. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with 1 abstention. Moving on to December 8th, 2024. Skipped a whole year almost. These minutes are long, take a long time to get to the next one.
I'll start by saying I like those minutes a lot more, so I'm looking forward to those being the minutes moving forward. So thank you for the work that went into it, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mike.
Motion made by Trustee Alex, or Commissioner Alex. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mario. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes
Abstain.
unanimously. Oh, 1 abstention by Commissioner Nowak.
And Dylan, you're voting on these now too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Village Board, motion to approve the minutes from December 8th,
I'll make the
2024. Motion made by Trustee Finch,
I'll second it.
second by Trustee Newman. Any discussion?
I'd have to abstain.
All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously with 1 abstention by Trustee Pecca.
2020.
Why did you abstain? You were at that meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I was looking at 23, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we did December 2023. Now, this was your last meeting.
Yeah.
But, so you're not abstaining, are you, trustee
No.
Beckman? Okay.
You're in favor of it, okay.
I think that's the wrong date, November 8th, I'm sorry.
Well, I took you to 23 to 24 pretty fast.
All right, is there an adjournment from Plan Commission? You guys want to stay a little longer?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second by.
Trustee Newman.
Or trustee Newman, motion made by Commissioner Nowak. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Village Board.
I'll make a motion on that too.
I'll second it.
Second by trustee Finch. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys.
Well, that was fun.
I got the date wrong.
Yeah, that was
At the bottom.
Didn't win over any votes tonight.